go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. I was in my office and we had a really big conference table and we were and there were my HR person was there and I was there and we were talking to this person and then I thought the interview it was going pretty well. And so then the lady she's so sweet and nice lady, right? She's like, "Can I talk to you outside for just a minute?" And I was like, "Okay." I'm thinking, "Well, what's going on, right?" And she goes, "You're actually thinking about hiring her?" And I said, "Well, yeah, her answers have been pretty good." And she goes, "Did you see her knuckles?" And I said, from where I was, and because it was a really big table, I couldn't really see it. And she kind of had her hands down a little. And so I said, "No." I said, "What's on her knuckles?" And she says, "It says FU tattooed on the top of her knuckles." And I was like, "Oh, I missed that." I totally missed the FU.
I'm going to send that out there to the field.
I'm like, "Welcome, customers." I don't know, Anne. I just thought to myself, what the heck? And I don't, I've had people with tattoos before. I'd say cover them up with makeup if they're bad, right? But I don't think every day she would cover those up. So
Oh,
we
yeah.
went back in there and told her thanks anyway.
Yeah, we want those tattoos to be covered by shirts.
Yes.
And piercings are limited to 3 in your ears.
Yes.
Yeah, but the one I brought for you today, Carol, is a hoot. This person, and we've had as replies to ads, all sorts, one-liners, no resume or anything, just one-liners. But this one interview, I just cannot even ever forget this. The guy said, well, we asked him, what do you think you could add to Universal? What are you going to bring to the table, so to speak? He goes, well, what's really important to me is that I get a job like this where I really don't have to do anything and I can relax.
Wow.
I said, well, perhaps we are not the right fit for you. But can you imagine telling a prospective employer that you want to do nothing so you can relax?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yes.
So that really stood out with me.
Yeah, that's just like it's the dumbest things they say or do. I have a little phone thing that we do ahead of time, like just and it's the simplest questions because we want to know is what days can you work, how much do you want, so there's no wasting time, right? So this lady, and so I'm thinking that people by the time they get to me, they're good to go, right? You're not going to have that kind of answer your guy did, right? So the lady sits down. I said, "So tell me something about yourself." And she looks at me and she goes, "What do you want to know?" And it was the look on her face and everything was weird. I was like, business, professional stuff, personal, whatever you'd like to tell me. And then she looks at me and she's like, "Well, make up your mind. You tell me." And I'm like, wow. And I
Can
said,
I pull this out of you?
yeah. And I said, "I don't think this job's for you." And she looks at me and goes, "How could you know that? I've hardly even been in this seat like a few seconds." I said, "Well, exactly. Because this job requires the gift of gab and you don't have it." And then she's like, "Are you kidding me? Is this a joke?" I said, no joke at all. I said, "This job needs people who can interact with others." And then she gets up and she like cusses a little bit and she slams my door. And then here come my people from the office. They're like, "Oh my gosh, she wasn't even here. What happened?" I'm like, "Well, who interviewed her on the phone first?" And this lady goes, "Well, I did." She goes, "Yeah, she was a little meek on the phone, but I didn't think it was that bad." But things like that, it's like, honestly, what do they think? I'm asking you, "Hey, tell me something about yourself." And if you can't, this job's not for you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hardy Kilgore, who you met many years ago, that I started business with, used to have a saying that, you want a pleasing, a manager who really likes pleasing people, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Personable, communicative, all those things that would draw the real story out of somebody because, we rely on managers to read between the lines.
Right.
Ask somebody like, what are you moving in, your contents and stuff, and you've got to listen between the lines to kind of figure out the ones that are not the ones you want.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, and it does take some talent, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And seeing the little things. I had a lady that came into the office and her she she kind of looked pretty decent and her resume was okay, but she had this big run in her hose and it was huge. I mean, it wasn't like, you know how it's like, it's not, she put those pantyhose on and she knew they had the run in them.
Yeah.
Those kind of,
Better just to go bare-legged. Yeah.
yes. And I'm thinking, I would have not chosen that to do that. And then it was weird little, even like her nails looked horrible. Like she'd been digging in the dirt that right before she got in. So I'm like,
Yeah.
this is an interview. This is
Yeah.
an interview. And you have to keep the store clean. You have to keep the office clean. And you can't keep yourself clean, then we're going to be in trouble, right?
Yeah, grooming is a big one. And like I said, with the tats and the piercings,
Oh,
you can tat yourself and pierce yourself all you want to, but we're going to not see that during the working day, to the extent
yeah.
that's possible. And yeah, so it just amazes me. Whether it's a property or a person, everything can be, whether it's old or new, everything can be clean, neat, and well organized.
That's right.
Just come well groomed.
Right.
You represent us.
Yes.
And nails are a big turnoff. That one just gets everybody. It just gets under your skin, literally. Sorry about the pun, but it does.
Yeah. I think being in storage has been so fun because it's just meeting all the different people and the different situations. And it's just, I like finding the humor in it because it just makes for life more interesting.
Absolutely.
And knowing when we do get a good person, it's like, it's so good that we didn't have to have whatever that was before. Or
Yeah.
that I've seen behind lots of counters that I think, wow, the owner clearly doesn't know this is going on, right?
The ones I love, Carol, are like when I'm mystery shopping somebody, we're doing a feasibility or something, or I'm working with a client, I mystery shop his competition, and they don't even look up from the counter. They continue doing what they're doing. I'm just sort of wandering around or saying, hello, can I get some help? It reminds me of going into a failed department store. If I'm having to scream to get help, I'm not very confident about shopping there,
Right.
and that's when we started making the managers get up from behind the desk and greet the customer.
Yeah.
The days where we just took orders and sat behind a counter.
Yeah, you got to stand up.
You got to get them in there and take control of them and be friendly and make them feel welcome,
Yeah.
If they're not comfortable and they don't trust you, you're not going to get anywhere. So
Exactly.
get up and say hello. I love this one because I've sat and thought, and I've had some odd ones through the years, but the one that really came to mind was a store in Oklahoma where the boys that owned it had called us and we turned it around and it was doing terrible. And of course we turned it around so that they needed to sell and get the value up and do all that stuff. But I was out there one time. I had to be there looking at something across town. So I popped into the store and I was wondering why their marketing numbers were not very good. They weren't, and this was long before COVID, but they weren't reporting any marketing visits. They weren't making any networking connections or any awareness or going to any chamber events or anything. And I walked in and the manager, not only did he not have good attitude, but he didn't have bad attitude. He had no attitude. It was as if a blank slate, like something you see in, a movie or something, just nothing. You couldn't. I said, well, maybe he's just, intimidated by the Ann. I'll spend a few minutes with him, see if I can't bring him out of his shell, so to speak. I spent an hour and a half with him, and it was nothing. So I sent him. I said, well, the holidays are coming up. You haven't done anything to, set up your store, make it friendly, offer people a cup of coffee or a hot cocoa or do anything. And he had all the tools needed to do that. So I said, we need to decorate this counter. At least we can do some things inside the office, and there's a dollar store literally across the street. Nothing. I came back later that day, not a thing. Well, so I've never had anybody like that who I'm used to ones that have, great attitude. You and I are of that type where we
Yeah.
are magnets to that. And I've had some that have had terrible attitude, just horrible, witchy, and growled at people. But I've never had one like him. He was the oddest, absolutely no attitude. So I called his area manager, and then I called David, our COO, and said, "Did we drug test this child? Do we? What's happening?" Because it made me think of someone who's being medicated heavily for like a personality disorder where they just have nothing, no low, no high, just nothing. And they said, well, let's check and see if in fact we did do his drug test. And I think he somehow got past it, but he did not last very much longer because I'd rather have somebody making mistakes because they're trying than just the nothing. Are you even taking up the air? Come on, go somewhere else and take up their air. We need somebody that's either going to make 100 decisions and 50 of them are wrong. At least you made 50 right, and did something instead of just total apathy about everything. It just amazed me.
Yeah. I've had a lot of odd managers over the years, but it's some of them just weird behavior things that they do, or things that I thought, wow, I did not expect this.
Yes.
And one of them was I went up to a store in Denver when I was with National Self Storage. This was like 87 or something like that. And they sent me up there because the store wasn't doing very well. And actually, the real thing that got the accounting people said their electricity was triple anybody else's. And I was like, well, that's odd. I wonder why that would be. Maybe they leave the air running in the when I'm like, it's Denver, right? What you cannot leave the air conditioner on, right? So I go up there just totally unannounced, and I walk in, there's no one in the office, and I'm looking, and there are two big bags on the countertop. And so I'm thinking, what are those? And and I look inside, and it's like dirty laundry or laundry type of stuff, like laundry bags. And I thought, huh. And so I wait in there, and I'm thinking, okay, they must be out on the site. Okay, so I walk around the site, no one there. And so then finally I go around and I knock on their home door, and then she looked like she's waking up, but yet the front door was open, right? And so then she goes, oh, I'll be right out. And I'm like, okay. So I go in there, and so here comes another customer, and he comes and he goes, hey, I've got a bag here. And I said, what's this for? And he said, oh, she does my laundry. So she was taking in people's laundry and doing it at the property and then charging them for it. He said, tell her I don't need it for a couple of days, so I'll be good. Right? And I'm like, oh, okay. Now I know why there was all this as extra electricity, but a lot, right? So then this is Tom 1. Tom Litton was out doing the physical inventory of the property, and he goes, hey, you need to run down to like A3. And he said, it's just, go look at A3. So I go look, and I open the doors, maybe this much open at the bottom, and you could see like a coffee can in the front there. And so I thought, oh, well, this looks a little weird. So I opened it up, and there are all these boxes, and they were porn by genre, and on the little can it says $1 rental. So they put and there's coins in there. There's some dollars and coins in the coffee can.
They needed their laundry done, Lordy.
Yeah. So they're doing laundry and that. And then when we terminated them because of this, right? So we terminate them. And the next day we show up, and I was like, wow, they are gone. And I'm like, woohoo! We don't have to fire them or take 30 days to get them out of here or whatever. So I go into the apartment, and it looked clean and nice. And so, and I was like, oh, well, I'm going to watch the front. And he goes, well, I'm going to check it out and do a little, form for the apartment, if they're leaving, just for the state, right? And then he goes, oh, you got to come in and see this. And I'm like, uh-oh. So I go in and he opens the door, and there's everything in the room is still there, the bed, the dresser, everything. And there's an older man in a rocker, and he's looking out the window. And I was like, wow, who is this? Who could this be that they just left here? They just left that person there. And so I tried to talk to him. He was not interactive at all. And I'm like, what do we do? And so I called Joe Nimchek. I'm like, Joe, guess what? Guess what we got here? He's like, oh my gosh, Carol. He goes, figure out who he is. We need to get him out of there. And so, and there was some business card on the top, and I called it, and this lady goes, wait a minute, where's the manager? And I said, the manager, they're gone. They just left yesterday. And whoever this is here, she goes, that's my dad. And we were paying them to keep him there. And she said, you have got to keep him there because I can't come. I'm at work. I can't come get. I said, ma'am, you need to come get. If this is your dad, you need to come get him because we can't help it. We can't feed him. We can't do. We're not doing any of this. This is not in our realm, right? I'm just like, I couldn't even believe it. So I said, listen, if you don't come down, we're going to call, service, some kind of service here to come pick him up. And she begrudgingly said, well, I'll be down there at my lunchtime. And I'm like, well, what do we do with him? I mean, what if he has to go to the bathroom? I didn't even know what to do with him. So I was just like, wow. So, but she did come and get him and moved she said, can I leave the stuff in here until I get him settled and I'll come back tomorrow and get the stuff. And I said, yes. I said, we may end up putting it if you don't, we're going to charge you for the room. If you don't, later, we're going to put your stuff in storage. She's like, yeah. But anyway, it was just so weird. And like,
well, think about somebody that enterprising to take in laundry, take in a boarder, sell porno movies. Yeah. If they put that much energy into doing their job, can you imagine?
And I think as soon as we did the changeover of those managers, that store went up like double what it was doing before, literally double. And I was like, that's why you can't sit on this stuff, can you? No. When you think there's something odd going on, and even those accounting people that come up and say, there's something suspicious about this, you listen to them and you say, I'm gonna go check it out. Because I said, let me go up there. I think that's a good idea because that's just weird.
And I think every one of us in the industry that do management have had the person doing porno on the desktop. Now these days, Alan can, IT guys find it out without him having to go to the store. You just do a backdoor check. But in the old days, you had to physically go to the store, the desktop, and buy that. And the people who do that kind of thing, we probably caught 4 or 5 in 30 years, but the ones that you catch, it's so shocking who they are. The last person you'd ever suspect, has huge porno file on the stored desktop. It's just like on earth. And letting other people live in the apartment, just like the old man. I had never thought of renting a room out to the old man, but you think like in the old days when everybody had apartments, it's not so much that way anymore, but letting 7 people live in a 2-bedroom apartment.
Right.
Like, who are these people? Where did they come from? Or 15 cats or, 2 mastiffs or something that's obviously, and they know it's not in the rules, Right. So the things that we discover, I think, are a little wild.
That reminds me of a potbelly pig because I was doing an audit at a store and I heard I said, what is that in your house? And I could hear something against the door and it was loud. And I said, it sounds kind of like a pig. And she goes, oh, I have a potbelly pig. And so I was like, well, that's okay with the owner? And she goes, well, yes. And I said, wow, that doesn't sound, it sounds like a hog. Said, well, when I bought it, they said it was a potbelly pig. And I said, well, could I see it? And it was a full-on hog. It had to be 200 or maybe 250 pounds. And the other side of the door that, the one side looked fine towards for the customer, but the other side that goes in their apartment, that thing had rutted into the door and just messed it up something. And she said, yeah, it tries to let me know it needs to go outside. I'm like, oh my God. And I said to the owner, do you know she's got a big hog in there? And he goes, no, she's got a pot-belly pig. I said, no, sir. No, sir. And I mean, these people need to go to their stores more often.
Yes,
That's
they
why
do.
they hire us, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, when you hire, you get a new manager and they're all excited, and it's a relief manager. And I believe it was like her first day by herself after training and everything. And it was a store on the south side of Atlanta near the farmer's market. And, we always want to know, what are they storing to qualify the user and all that. Well, she had just forgotten to ask that question. I mean, it was her very first day by herself. And these were not climate controlled units. These were drive up units in hot Atlanta, in spring and summer. Yeah. So he filled up a 10 by 20 unit with Vidalia onions and left them there. Wow. And of course they rotted, and of course it made a huge mess. It was about 10 grand to clean that all up. But the manager, she still works for us, and she's advanced quite far in our business, but she gets so embarrassed every time she hears that story. She's like, oh, not the onions. So that was really a bad one. And then we had a guy at a store in Riverdale, Georgia, who was importing fish. And Sharon Palace, who was doing the audit one day in that store. And she was the area manager for that store. And something awful. The smell was just disgusting. She's starting to, figure out what's going on, and is opening doors because we have to find out what on earth is going on. And this guy had imported fish and I guess wasn't able to sell them and left them in the unit dead, of course. Man. So again, fumigation was required. That one was just terrible, but I think the freezer was the best one. I had one of those owners for a downtown Atlanta store that just kind of free will. People should just be what they want to be. And, he's the one that we discovered he was letting the workers who were building the next phase of this old factory building out, he let them smoke marijuana on the job. I was like, no. So we had a customer at one of those that store who was going up for auction. And the second wife, they lived in Michigan, I think it was the one making the payments. And she decided, why am I paying for the storage unit in Atlanta? We don't live there. It's not any of my stuff. And she quit paying for it. So, of course, it went to sale. At the sale, there was a freezer in there. And when they opened the freezer, the first wife was inside there. So, needless to say, he went to jail. But the dead wife in the freezer was just unbelievable. Yeah. And then, the man that set himself on fire in the unit, because his wife, they were having some issues, and we had cautioned her that, if she was afraid of him or anything, she should just change the lock and change the code, no problem. Well, she changed the code, but she didn't change the lock. Well, he got in somehow, because it was still the same lock, went inside her unit, pulled the door down, poured gas over himself, set himself on fire.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
He couldn't stand the pain. So he was seen running. We were on an interstate interchange, and diagonally across the interchange was the local hospital. So he ran to the hospital, and it was in the middle of the night, of course. The property is burning, so because it's self-storage and we like to only sell disc locks, that makes it hard to get in the unit. But it took the firefighters 18 hours to put that fire out, and the entire building plus the office and the manager's apartment. So it was a great lesson. Managers, get contents insurance on your apartment if you're still in one of those live-on situations. But firefighters were nice enough to go in the office and bring us our file cabinets and computers, and we offered that store out the back of a U-Haul truck for 2 weeks before the city would give us a permit for a trailer. So,
wow.
Just one little thing can have such huge repercussions. So, you and I, we probably annoy the manager sometimes with all the things we want them to check and do.
Yes.
That one little thing, would have saved so many people. It made the news because there was a Gone with the Wind collection stored in one of the units
Oh, wow.
lost. Gone with the Wind, that's a big thing here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So, and the manager personally lost all of her stuff. So, one little thing can have such a huge impact, and these stories are comical years later, but
Right.
they're not at 4 a.m. when you're standing there with the TV stations and all your customers and, giving out the 800 number to the insurance company and watching the property burn down. So each little thing we ask you to do, there's a reason behind it.
Yeah, it's so much, that experience. And I know new people are like, oh, you should try this and this. I'm like, yes, but words of wisdom will tell you these procedures are here for a reason.
That's
Even
right.
hiring, everything that we do as management people, we do for a reason. And sometimes owners are like, well, I can do it just as well as you can. Well, because it's the devil's in the details, isn't it?
The devil's in the details.
Yeah. And that they miss some of those.
Sometimes are their own worst enemy.
Yes.
We had a great client, someone I think that you might know, but at the beginning at one of his first stores with us, he'd get so buddy with the managers and start letting them do things with his personal equipment and them. Then when something happens and it hits the fan, we can't protect that owner.
Right.
Or manager.
Yes.
We're like, come on, we're the three-legged stool. If everybody passes their information through management, we'll keep everybody safe.
Yep.
Managing the risk and liabilities, happy and making money and going forward. But there's a reason for it, and then owners come crying to you after it's literally blown up in their face.
Right.
I bought that girl a car because she didn't have a way to get to work, and now she's gone to California. What do I do? Well, sit down and have a drink because you just gave away a car.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a guy call me the other day saying the same kind of thing. He said, well, I found out the manager took some money to get a car, borrowed it from the store, didn't ask him. Well, I think I said, that's not borrowing.
Yeah.
That's stealing. He's like, well, we've got a good relationship. So I said, not that good. Not that good. And then she loaned money from the till to the maintenance man who was homeless, and she let him use the van to live out of. And because he was saying, hey, where's the van? And she said, oh, the maintenance man has it. He said, doing what? I haven't seen it all weekend. It's been gone. And he said, oh, well, she said, well, he doesn't have a car, so I let him use it. And I told the owner, I said, you got a partner now. Your manager is now your partner. Whether you know it or not, they're your partner.
That's exactly right.
Like, really?
That's exactly right.
He said, yeah. I was like, yes.
You're right, Carol, because we mandate that petty cash has to be remitted weekly, so it's always transit. You're always getting a check and requesting replenishment so that the fund stays balanced. And I've had owner tell managers, oh, you don't need to do that, just send it in when you want to. And then, because they do that, oh, gee, we've discovered your manager's living out of your petty cash that you encouraged. No, we're not doing that. You send it every week. And of course, with the new technologies, we're able to do some credit card programs, reload, and not have to physically be passing checks back and forth. But it's still the same theory. You got to keep it balanced. There's got to be receipts. You're not living your life out of the owner's petty cash.
And Ann, also the other thing about this is, like, for me, the support people in the management company are so important, because sometimes the accounting people will say, hey, I noticed that on the petty cash, there's something weird here. And then I'm looking and I'm thinking, well, that's weird. Why would that happen? And then, okay, like that's not normal. And, that's how theft starts, right? They try things, and if they get away with it, then it gets worse and worse and worse. But if you don't have procedures and policies that you actually strictly enforce, you would never know. We even had these managers in Florida, they put, a petty cash, and they took the money from the petty cash to buy a poodle. And it said poodle on there. And so, and this is another one. I go into Joe Nimchek and I said, here's what happened. I said the managers were out walking their dog, and this was a new property we had developed in Delray Beach, and we had a retention pond in the property, and the buildings were sort of around it. And so the manager was out walking his dog, and an alligator came out of the water, snagged the dog, and pulled it. And the manager has it on a leash, right? But it just slips off with the collar and everything. And so they put it through their petty cash to be reimbursed for their dog. And then I said, well, okay, the good news is it wasn't somebody's kid.
No kidding.
And so I said, we need to put up some fencing around there and a sign up there that, danger or something.
That's right.
And so I said, listen, I know it's going to cost us to give them the money. He said, I'm not going to pay for their frickin' poodle. And I was like, we are paying for their poodle, I'm telling you, because it's better that than them leaving or anything. I mean, they did lose their dog over it. I'm like, and he said they should have told us. I said, yes, you're right. But
yeah.
There comes to a point where let's just do this thing for them and then get it right, because I don't want any trouble with the city or the county
Absolutely.
or the state or anything like that. We're just begging for trouble, right? I think
you're right. Petty cash is the first place they try.
Yeah.
And if you're not auditing that, and they get by with it. Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
I needed that $10 for gas, and nobody said anything. So I need this $20 for my kids' school lunch, and pretty soon it's just.
Yes.
That's why we mandate and audit every day the cash check credit card transactions versus. If you're not making a bank deposit every day, that's immediate termination.
Yes.
And the 3 people who were doing obvious stealing through the years, we caught all of them because of the lack of bank deposits.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a lot of other theft, not cash theft, but it's
like buying things from petty cash. They get 2 replacements for their printer.
Yes.
Yeah. So you get a couple of those and you say, oh, whoa, I don't know how, does it say 2 on there? Oh, we only got one. But they returned one when we found out. Like they returned one for $80-something, and they kept the money for it. Like, yeah, 2, they don't need 2 of them.
Yeah. Office supplies, you're right, is a big thing. We set up corporate office supply connection.
Yes.
And Charbonne oversees all of that. But you're right. Whether it's customers cheating you by laundering box returns, kind of the same way managers could do office supplies.
That same way. Yep.
You got to handle it. You just got to get on top of it. I did have this one man. Back in 1996, Atlanta was the host for the Olympics.
Olympics, yeah.
So, of course, every hotel within 100 miles booked solid, every B&B, everything. So we discovered at this one store, and it was sort of close to the city, that ladies of the evening were conducting their business hourly out of the units. So I thought, well, how clever of them, no, we don't usually rent by the hour, that's kind of odd. But people will try anything. And it was a number 2 in a non-conditioned unit. Can you even imagine? I can't imagine.
Yeah.
And that store was really a special one because it was next to the waste treatment facility on the Chattahoochee River. And that owner used to have a nickname for it, the 4-letter tumbler, it started with 3, and that was horrible. But we used to have a man that would come in every morning, go open up the door of his unit, go over to the back of the unit, get his folding chair, and get his big standing ashtray. All of our grandparents used to have those standing ashtrays. And he'd get his newspaper and light his cigar and sit in the middle of a vacant unit and smoke his cigar and read his newspaper. And I was doing a lock check one day, and I asked, how you doing? And I said, I have an odd question to ask you, but I got to find out. why on earth are you sitting in the middle of a storage unit smoking and reading the newspaper? Well, my wife won't let me smoke at home, and I just want a couple hours of peace and quiet every day. So, smoking a cigar in his unit, and he said, I'm very safe, and I make sure no ashes or anything get anywhere, and I make sure everything's dry and clean, and I lock it and I go home. Cigars in the middle of the unit, what are you going to do? In New Orleans, we had a pharmaceutical rep, and that building was a conversion of an old furniture, huge showroom, and 3 stories on the other side was the warehouse. So we had 3 stories of climate on one side, and our big phase 1 all single story, about 12 or 14 foot ceilings. Well, our cameras and lights above those phase 1 units, and the air conditioning running, they all just had chicken wire tops like we put in. We discovered one day that a pharmaceutical rep that had a 10 by 30 was having his love tryst on the other half of his
unit. Yeah.
So half of the unit was the pharmaceutical rep promos and all the things he gave out, but the other half was so well done. He had this beautiful cot. It had nice blankets and pillows. He had a box he used as the end table and a little lamp. He had a candle. But watching the cameras is how we caught him, because when he opened that, because he had 2 doors, and on the door end of the living room was when we saw the cot and everything, and the lady going in, and how could you be that quiet? How could you be that quiet? Come on, right. We were just hilarious. Yeah. So the pharmaceutical rep had to go find another love nest.
I've had a bunch of those too over the years, but one was in Reno, Nevada, and it's so hot there in the summer, right? Yeah. And so I was out doing a physical inventory of the property, and there was no lock on the outside, but I couldn't get the door. I wanted to look in to see, because I'm like, okay, maybe someone moved out, and so I can't lift it up. I'm like, well, that's weird. It feels like it's kind of like bolted on the inside. So I get back in the cart and go up to the manager. I said, so what's up with E21 or whatever it was? And she goes, oh, that's my lovebirds. I was like, what? It's flipping Reno. It's 110 out, right? And so
you can even do that,
goes, they come in, like every Wednesday, and they're in there a couple of hours, and they leave. And he's got a fan in there and a couch and a little table, and but she said they come in here and have sex, and I said, heck, it's Reno, isn't it? Like, aren't the rooms like $30? You just do that and have air conditioning? What's wrong with these people? I was like, and she said, it's like clockwork. You see one and I'll wave them on. And then he asked to buy, we had a card, the old card system, like to get in the gate cards. And so he paid for her to get one too. And she goes, that's how I heard all of what was going on.
Oh my God. That's amazing. Just amazing. Yeah, one homeless lady in Sacramento one day told me that I had to let her live there.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
You have to let me live there. I said, well, actually, no, we don't. Yeah. And we're not going to be doing this anymore. You can come during the day and play with all your stuff, but at the end of the day, you're leaving, So the homeless issue is really tough.
Man.
It just breaks your heart, first of all. But
I know, it's true.
Ride that fine line between managing it or it managing and breaking your heart, So you can't let them live on the property.
And I finally just have procedures where, we overlock them at a certain time, and when the office closes, lock it up. And if you don't like that, sorry, you're not living in there. You're not coming in after office hours. And then I go up on their rent, if I need to get them out. If other customers, they're bothering, because this one guy, he would go pee on the guy's door next to his, and I was like, okay, it's not even 50 yards where you could go and pee in private on some weeds. But no, I don't know. I don't get it. It's just it's fascinating, isn't it? It keeps energy and life going in within me.
When they think they know more than what we've asked them to do, and they are making alternate decisions,
Mm-hmm.
It gets them into big trouble. And then they become afraid to tell you of what's really
Right.
happening. And that makes the situation even worse.
Right.
So just as when I was a loudmouth child, I was one of 8 children. So I would just confess, just like, here's what I've done. Let's just get it over with, whether I'm
Yeah.
going to get it or not. Just say it. It's kind of like that. Managers, when you get in trouble and or owners, when you get in trouble, don't just let it continue to fester, get worse, bigger, ballooning out of proportion. Because then you're going to having to call Scott Zucker or one of our other great attorneys in our industry come and save you, because then it's a big liability. So just like when we were children, it's always better just tell the truth, say what you did, and we'll help you get out of it. You know.
I've done that with owners too. I've said, you know what, here's what happened and here's what we did. And then, that didn't work. And this is what happened from that. And I just say, because even if they had told me that, like sometimes when I get bad stuff from them, I'd rather know and know what I'm dealing with. It's just better to be able to do this, and we've known each other a long time, haven't we?
30 years.
Yeah. I'm trying to think where.
More than 30 years, the late 80s.
Yeah. I was thinking it was an SSA thing, wasn't it, that we met?
Yeah, I think at a Tampa convention, because Jim were still doing their presentations together.
Yeah.
And that's when I also met Carol Shipley for the first time. But one of the first times I actually got to spend any time with you was when you came to Hilton Head for the Southeastern Region Golf.
That was fun.
Did a presentation there. The reason it's so memorable to me is because one of my own employees was with me, and he was out partying late and snuck into the room while you were speaking very late, and I watched that. So I remember.
I do remember also playing golf, because we played golf too there. And I'm more of a tennis player always, but I did play golf just for the fun of it. And a couple of times, because there's best ball, I got, because I can putt. But it was so much fun. There's so many things in storage we've done that's been fun too. Like we do fun things along with the learning. But I've always, you and I have had a great connection, because we have, love to tell stories to each other about fun things when we get together. And it's just, I've always admired you as a great operator and what you do, and the company you've built. And in the times I've come to work with your company, it's just so nice to see such a great environment that you have, and that you've built with, the culture, not only like in your office, but with your managers too. It's really amazing. And you and I have so many similar philosophies about management, and about, how we absolutely have to control the store and the managers and every process of it. And I love some of my owners, but there are a few of them that are so stubborn that you got to let it go. You gotta just step back, and I'm gonna make you more money, but you've got to let it go. And I think that's what, when we get together, we always come to, we always have stories like this to share and stuff like that. So that's why we wanted to just get together and to be able to talk about it. Because sometimes we've been places drinking or something, and we're like, we should just do something where we actually have people listen to our stupid stories, because it is such an odd business, isn't it? And the weirdness of our customers and what they're storing, and the life, so much of what life is. We see that in the homelessness. We see all these things, the catalytic converters now that are being stolen.
I saw that. Yeah.
Oh, it's just horrible about the things that we know what we're like the heartbeat of the nation in so many ways, because we get all the gamut of the people doing super well and the people that are down and out, and just and having people in the office that can work with all of those things. It's not easy, is it? This whole combination of the management is and these developers that are like, man, look at this beautiful place. And it's like, yeah, it's a Taj Mahal. But wait till you figure out how to manage it, because that's when the difficulty begins, is getting the management going and getting that running smoothly and making money, instead of it going to somewhere else it shouldn't.
Well, it's one of the reasons after I was first one of your followers and listening to you speak all those years ago that we decided that our on-site managers had to be called professional storage counselors.
Yes.
That's what they are. They have
Yeah.
to counsel, but they have to be professional and left on their own, and you know, a lot of times. So the whole storage industry, I think back to all the jobs I had done in my previous life.
Yeah.
The storage business is wonderful because no day is ever the same.
No, it's true, isn't it? Yeah.
And it keeps your attention, and you can set your own state, make your own, you know, because when you and I started, there was no data, there was no trend tracking. Thank goodness you say what gets measured gets done, you know, because it's the most true statement in the business. Thank you for that motto. But, you know, look at what we've learned and just how different our industry is today compared to.
It's true, isn't it?
So, wow. It's
But
just.
I do feel like, you know, being on the ground with a lot of this, it just, so much experience gives you the wisdom to say no, or to say this is our standard. And our standards have to stay what they are because they're so important. And I know, I mean, I've been doing a lot of YouTube things because I feel like, you know, during COVID, people still need training. They still need information. They like it in a shorter time period. But I really feel like, you know, we wanted you here today because listening to two people that have had a lot of experience and learning from that, learning not only those are stressful times for us, but we're now laughing about it, right?
Yes.
and we realize that builds our character, builds our company, it builds the integrity that we have because we don't tolerate a lot of that stuff from our managers or from all around. And it's
That's right.
What a wonderful thing experience is. And I think in sort of a male dominated industry as far as the development goes, women do well also. And I think that that's wonderful to be able to say our skills are amazing and what we do is amazing. So, and we can show that as, and what the legacy we've left behind is people that have a lot of money because we've run their properties well.
That's exactly right. I sometimes tell people that is my singular great talent is making millions now for my clients. I'm very good at it. And I think one of the attributes, since we're having a girl fest here, is that unlike others we've seen come and go through our industry, we realize change is something you seek and you adapt to. So technology is not a problem for us. After the automation, we crave it. You know, if they would just do it faster, please, and make it more cost effective, we'd have more of it faster. But you know, being able to morph through all those levels and use that data, use that experience to benefit the next one that you work on.
Right.
I think our clients probably should pay us twice what they pay us, you know, but it is not valued that same way, but incredibly worthwhile.
But you know, Anne, I've come after, like you've done an audit before me, and then in fact, this was one in California I did, and I came in after you, and then like, yeah, Anne Ballard told us that too. I'm like, well, then why didn't you do this the first time around? Because you just wasted the money on me and my time. And had you told me to begin with that Anne was here, I would have said, can I read her report? Or, you know, let me see if, because it seems like if she told you they're stealing, they're stealing. And he said, well, I just wanted another opinion. I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, you hire a professional, then you should take their word for it. Because we don't say that for no reason. Why would we say, oh, you're pushing stealing?
I think the art, Carol, that comes from our work is that you have to find the right way to tell the client what he doesn't want to hear.
That's true. That's true.
But, you know, it's our integrity, it's our reputation, it's everything to give them the bad news. You know, his design idea and development idea is never will work. Or, you know, do not build in this location from a feasibility or from doing consulting and an audit, you know, like I've sent several people to you that really need audits bad, and that's I'm not as patient as you. So I would rather you do the audits for them and let us do work on marketing and some other stuff. But
Yeah.
it's hard to deliver that bad news, but you have to do it. You just have to do it.
Yes. Well, and I've had people that have called me up and said, I was just looking around for someone cheaper or something, and like,
Don't call me.
you got Ann Ballard. Why are you looking? Well, I'm going to see if I can get it any cheaper. I'm like, but when you have the best, why are you looking anywhere else? But the weird thing is, and I think I've never felt odd about being a woman in this industry. I just am confident about what I say and what I do, and I know that I'm feel good about what I do because I feel like I always try to do the right thing for the client. And even though it's hard to hear, I mean, because this is the hardest thing is when you have to tell someone you're not managing it well. I think you're a great builder. You've got a beautiful place here, but your management skills, because what they can do in building and developing is sometimes amazing, and I love
Yes.
what they bring to the table. But when that skill does not translate to management, and some of the best builders I've had have been the worst at managing. And so I think they don't know how to treat the people and how to get the most out of them and to find the right people and not just the first person that walks through the door that can read. So I think we bring a lot to the table, and I don't really, I've never felt like I'm less because I'm a woman. I've never felt like that in this industry. I've always felt like people treat me like I want to be treated because I produce, and you're a producer, and I think we both take a lot of pride in that, and that it's leading the way for people. Because I know my daughter, she sees no bounds. She doesn't. She
It's
acts like,
wonderful.
yeah, and I love seeing that in her, where it's like she doesn't even act like. She goes, oh yeah, there's guys there, but I'm way outperforming them. I'm like, good for you, because she was up at a storage property in Phoenix, and she's like, oh, I'm selling the heck out of those. I rented 10 today. She was so proud of herself. She's like, I rented 10. How many have you rented, Mom? At the most you've ever rented? I said 42. And she's like, what? Because she was just wiped out. She was just like, whew. And I guess they have those rental RVs too. So she had to clean out a bunch of those on top of it. She goes, people are so nasty. They're supposed to bring them back clean, and they don't. But it's just weird seeing my kids come up and in storage, and I'm just saying, like, you may not want to be in storage, but if you do, yeah, you've got a foothold if you want to. But it's
great life. It'll be a great life.
It will be a great life. That's what I think too, because I just love what we do, don't you?
I do too.
There's not a day I get up and like, oh, I don't want to do this. And Desiree, every once in a while, I said, oh, we got another Zoom. It is a little weird with the lockdown too, isn't it?
Yes.
Because you and I are travelers.
But you know what? Last year, couldn't travel after, I think March 6th was my last trip last year.
Me too.
Signed more new clients last year than ever before.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes. And of course, we Zoomed our guts out, but we just completed at last 2 weeks, or last week, I think it was, our 4 half-day virtual summit manager training, because we couldn't bring all the managers from around the country for the annual class.
Yeah.
I'm telling you what, our marketing and training team, we call them the M&T, they knocked our socks off. So we sent everybody a bag of snacks, a per diem check. We gave them all team colors and T-shirts they had to wear. They had a scavenger hunt to complete. We used virtual photo booths. It was exciting, and they were so involved, and we were all just so pleased. And of all the sessions that we did, we only had to re-record like 2 of the 18 or something.
Wow.
We were like, well, we won't have all the people on the re-record, but we'll do our best.
Yes.
Yeah, I hope that the managers know how special I thought the whole thing was, is that you just have to find a way, whether it's pandemic or natural disasters or who knows what's going to be down the pike. But you always find a way.
Yeah. And don't you think, I wake up some days thinking, thank God I'm in self-storage.
Yes.
We
Yes.
have survived so many things that have happened that other businesses and some of my friends that have lost their businesses and their homes. And it makes my heart break. But I think, thank goodness storage has weathered all of this.
Yes.
So,
We are the darlings of the real estate world. And
yes.
then in my 22nd annual year in review, as you know,
Mm-hmm.
last week for the Georgia Association, that's how I started. I said, y'all, thank God we're not the travel or hotel or restaurant business or bars, because those people are suffering like crazy. And here we are having one of the best years we've ever had.
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful every day.
Me too. Well, Anne, thank you so much for your time, and I count you as one of my longtime friends, and I admire you greatly because we get things from each other too. When we do, because I still listen to you. I go to your stuff and I listen to you because you're I don't know, you're just doing so much, and sometimes it sparks in something in me, and like, yes, or yeah, I used to kind of do that, but not on steroids like you do it. So I learned, you know what I mean? There's never a time when I haven't sat through one of your sessions thinking, oh yeah, I got to do that. I make notes. I sit there because it's always good to, look at what everyone's doing. And it's some, and I don't say it's regional, but because so many of the things you could do all over the US that we do, but it is, and I have done a lot of like auditing, but like I love marketing, but what you do in your numbers and the knowledge you have with all of your data, it's amazing. And I love to hear that stuff because you really give grit to numbers to where you can say, oh, if that's true, this is what we should be doing, because
That's right.
leads you to do the right thing and not just it's a hunch or it's a feeling or that's what I know is right in storage.
I really loved listening to you and Sue Havlin the other day, just cracking me up. I was like, oh yeah, I appreciate that. And like y'all, if I see plugins walking the property, I'm just unplugging,
Yeah.
I very much admire you as well, Miss Carol.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And so just thank you for your time, because I hope people listen to this, because there's a plethora of information you can learn just from the nuances of things that we talk about and we do. And just it's uplifting to feel like you're in something. Well, I've done this or been in self-storage or known about, 84 is when I started in self-storage. So it's been a long time, and thinking, what a career. I mean, I love what I do. And I can tell you and I have that same feeling. And I'm watching you with your staff, like when I did the auditing stuff for your staff, they love what they do. They want to work so hard for your clients. And to hear all of that to me, I always feel good when I do something like that, because I feel like it just reminds people. I'm not really telling them anything they don't know, but I'm reminding them, to do certain things or the priority of something. And it's just like when I read your numbers and stuff, I'm like, wow, that reminds, this is where we should be doing this. And that's why even with SkilCheck, we have a lot of other ways to get customers now, but those doggone managers and how they answer the phone and how they interact with people, that is still huge. What you do, what I do,
makes the store. It
right.
makes the store.
Makes it, yes. And it really makes us shine, because we focus on the salesmanship and the importance and the marketing of everything that we do. We know those key components, and sometimes some owners just lose their way. They don't,
Yes.
they don't, and I don't really, that's just not their thing, and I think when I look at the success you've had with your owners, I'm thinking, wow, it's amazing. It's amazing how much more you can make for them than they can themselves. So
it's funny you should mention that, because we found that when we take over from an owner-operated facility into our process, we typically are improving their income about 30%.
That's amazing.
If you want to make 30% more money, give me a call.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. And I think that I don't have the statistics like you do, but I think, when I go in and help someone or I've taken over the management, it's amazing the difference that just little things can do. Yeah, we're not little things, but things that we just know naturally to do that they may not. So, but
and
anyway,
I thank you so much, Carol.
Yes. Well,
thank you very much.
You're very welcome.